So I just found out why one of my previously most hated chores has become one of my favorite joy rituals. You ready for this? Mowing the lawn. Now, this was a chore I was assigned as a child, which I absolutely hated. And to be fair, we had a wobbly yard on a hill with like stumps and rocks everywhere. It was very unsatisfying. However, now we have a nice, square, flat bit of lawn, which, to be fair, is more weeds than grass, but it still is very satisfying to mow. And as I've been going through the joy audit and starting these joy experiments, which I'm going to tell you about today, mowing the lawn has clocked in as one of the most satisfying things I've done. I looked at the research, and here's a couple reasons why. First of all, we have the before and after effect. Now, I love a bit of before and after. I'm obsessed with it. In fact, my husband calls this before and after porn, and he's not far off. Like, I absolutely live for the visual transformation of a before and after, especially in DIY. So in my feed on Instagram, that is what you will find, loads and loads of coloring and painting and DIY projects. Now, what is happening is in this before and after situation, we are getting dopamine released in our brain. Big surprise. But the other one that is happening here is the visual progress loop. This is when we are making visual progress, and the faster that progress grows, the more satisfied we are. When you're mowing the lawn and creating those lines, you can actually see it happening in real time, and you're getting the dopamine before you even finish, which is awesome. Now, why the lawn specifically? It might have something to do with the way the smell of cut grass affects our brain and body. Apparently, it affects the hippocampus and the amygdala in our brain, giving us a sense of nostalgia and cheerfulness. So maybe it's rewriting the childhood trauma of me having to mow the lawn when I was a kid. No matter what, this is something I've noticed in my daily life that is bringing me a load of joy, and it's a simple chore that I have to do anyway, but it's the visual satisfaction of getting it done that I am finding incredibly satisfying. As I've gone through the Joy First audit, I have really started to notice and pay more attention to the things that make me feel good, especially the mundane and the boring, the stuff that maybe I'm supposed to do, but when I approach it with a new attitude of how can I find joy in this, I'm noticing it's a bit more fun. Hey, if we've not met, my name is Jay Nicole Smith. I'm a design and color psychology expert, and this is the Joy First podcast. And today I want to take us through the idea of a joy experiment and move us into the next stage of this podcast, where I am going to take you in real time through the joy experiments that are working for me and the ones that aren't. Now, today, I want to really emphasize the importance of not dismissing something because it seems small, simple, or mundane when it comes to things that count as joy. In the research I've done for the book I'm writing now called Joy First, I have learned so much about the way joy works in our brain and our body, and I think it's probably a surprise to most of us. We really tend to think of joy as this jump up and down thing, and it isn't always that. The reason I started this season of the podcast talking about my journey is because I realized last year I was feeling like an imposter, because here I am supposed to be some sort of joy expert, and I was actually really struggling. I am going through perimenopause. I was struggling at a point in my business that was really hard. I've got young kids. Everything felt hard, and I was like, who am I to show up and talk about joy? And then it hit me. I realized that I was putting into practice so many of these Joy First principles, and I wasn't feeling jump up and down joy. A lot of days I was barely getting by, but these practices were sustaining me. Who knows where I would have been if I wasn't doing some of the little things that I want to share with you today and throughout these next episodes of the Joy Force podcast, where we explore experiments. And I like calling them experiments because that's what they are. It is a chance for you to play, to try something, see if it works for you, and if not, don't come back to it. I have been on a mission to try lots and lots of things that could or might bring joy, and the ones that have worked for me have really surprised me, and I'm going to share them with you throughout this season. Now, the one I wanted to mention today starts with mowing the lawn, and that is small visual transformations have been so satisfying. When I got my joy score and I realized that I have some work to do and that so much of what I'm feeling in my life looks like and feels like anxiety, I started this year to double down on creativity, which I know is something I love and need, something I'm pretty good at, and something that is in direct opposition to anxiety. When you are in creativity, it's almost impossible to feel anxious at the same time. So I knew the more time I spent being creative, the less time I could spend feeling anxious. So what that has looked like for me is a whole lot of coloring, painting, gardening, house DIY, doing creative workshops like painting and arm knitting, and I'm signing up for doing some jewelry. I can't do a workshop every week because I've got kids and a budget, but I have found little and big ways to be in my creativity more often. The easiest of which is getting some coloring books and some nice pens and actually sitting down and coloring. Last night, I picked up a coloring book my husband got me for Christmas and a pack of gel pens, which are so glittery. I will share them with you. They're amazing. And just put glitter on the page while I watched some Netflix, and it felt great. And you know what I wasn't doing? Doom scrolling. I wasn't on my phone. And what I have found is doing these small, tangible, visual experiments has helped me stay off my phone. And I know that has had a positive impact on how much anxiety I feel, about how much my brain is racing, and how much of this dopamine-seeking behavior I'm actually doing. Another really important thing to mention here are the 10 joy codes. I did a whole episode about this, which I will link in the show notes, but basically the joy codes are the easy access places that we can go to find joy in our daily lives, and a really good formula for actively going to add more joy into your life will come from seeking out these joy codes and feeding more of them into your day-to-day. So just for a quick review, they are vitality, growth, awe and wonder, nature, pleasure, purpose, faith and hope, freedom, connection and community, and creativity and flow. These are places to go when you're looking to add more joy to your day-to-day life. And these are the types of topics that we'll be covering as we explore the joy experiments. Let's take a look what we have in the lawn mowing when it comes to joy codes. Nature, we have pleasure, because we get that before and after dopamine. We have flow, if it's meditative, and a bit of vitality because we're moving our body, we're doing a little bit of hard work. So 4 joy codes in one activity is a pretty good recipe for something that feels great. One of the reasons I love color so much, and it is the #1 gateway that I recommend for joy, is because it can embody or be embodied or leveraged in all 10 of these joy codes in different ways. And so anytime you can find something that ticks a lot of these boxes, the chances are you're going to feel great when you do it or when you involve yourself in it for any length of time. So we are officially entering a new phase of the podcast where I'm going to bring you some of these joy experiments of my own. I think I might invite some guests who are running some of their own joy experiments and see what those are all about. I think that would be a really fun way to have some interesting conversations with some interesting people. And we're just going to see where it goes. This whole thing is a joy experiment. We are now on YouTube. So if you're listening to us on iTunes or Spotify, be sure to check out the videos because we're going to be able to do some more fun and clever, creative, visual stuff as we bring these experiments to you. And I have some ideas to share with you some simple joys, which I will start to bring to YouTube Shorts and all the social channels and Substack as well, to be just these little in-between versions of little tiny things that can add a bit of joy and or little tiny things you can watch that will make you feel good. So to end on today, I just have a question for you. I'm just curious, what are the things you've been gravitating towards lately? Have you noticed you're doing more scrolling, more things that make you feel like crap, more behaviors that you know are self-sabotaging, or do you find yourself leaning towards more joy? I always find that springtime kind of gets us rattled and excited to get outside and see the blooming flowers and breathe the fresh air. So I hope that is true for you wherever you are tuning in from, that you're getting excited and inspired to do things that make you feel good. Have you noticed that there's small things that your body is asking for? Things like rest, things like walks, things like not bringing your phone when you go outside, things like meeting up with a friend for a really long conversation. listen to your body, listen to these nudges and see where they lead you. And I certainly will be doing that in these conversations around joy experiments. But before we go, I wanted to just say one thing that comes up a lot when I have conversations, which tends to happen a lot with complete strangers or people interviewing me for podcasts or whoever it might be. And the thing that I think surprises people is just how unglamorous joy can be. So a bit like I was saying at the beginning of this episode, that I thought I was doing joy all wrong. And in fact, I was doing exactly what joy is meant to do, which sometimes is just to sustain us. Sometimes it's just medicine, and it's not necessarily going to cure us, and it's not necessarily going to make us feel amazing. It's just going to help us not give up. So if you're in a phase where this idea of this bright orange jump up and down version of joy seems so far away, I just want to remind you that is not the only version. Joy is on a spectrum, and it might be the light orange, the soft, the hopeful, the wonder and awe in nature, the connection from a friend joy that you are looking for right now that will step you into the next step, into the next season, where that big jump up and down, ecstatic type of joy feels more available. So I just wanted to mention that it is the little things. And that is why I'm going to do this whole season of experiments to just show you what joy can look like in real time, in the messy middle, in real life, not in the shiny, perfect Instagram world, but in the version where we live and breathe, where the world feels like it's on fire and we are grieving and we have fear and we are uncertain about the future. That's life. That's real. And joy lives here too. And it's always available to you. So I just wanted to remind you of that as we sign off for today. If you want to go take the Joy First audit, which we've been talking about the last 8 episodes of this season, go to Substack, find Joy First World on Substack, and you can either become a paid member or a free subscriber, and there's a version of the audit available to you. If you do join the paid version, it's about $50 a year, and I built a really cool little AI tool to help you take the audit and find some great next steps. And those next steps might be the joy experiments that lead you into that next phase, that next season where you feel more light, you feel more joyful, and these things feel easier to access. If you are already in that jump up and down season of life, amazing. I had someone who got in touch and said, I took the Joy First audit and I got a 94, and I was like, yes, I love it. I want to hear from you too. I want to know what you're doing. I want you to share your Joy First experiments with me, and maybe we can talk about them on the podcast, because I think we're going to get through this collectively as a community, right? We're going to share and we're going to share our resources, share our ideas, and come together to be able to move through all those stages and seasons and cycles of life, which are inevitable, and not all of it is shiny. Joy has so many forms, and I look forward to exploring many of those forms with you throughout the next year, basically, of this podcast. So welcome. If this is the first time you're here, definitely head over to iTunes and look for some old episodes. We talk about color. We talk about all these different ways to bring joy into your business if you're an entrepreneur. So definitely check that out. Give us a follow, give us a subscribe. And I hope this episode has helped you find, choose, and share a little bit more joy today. And I'll see you next time.